morning with Boo.
All right, we'll celebrate that tomorrow. We hope, in spite of all the difficulties, to bring cheer to our people. And we hope that every day is a brighter day with, with a brighter morning. But I want to ask you, tell me a little bit about the research work you have been doing and how long you have been doing this, which led to your present situation. Because it is a very important journey for a very important matter, and it's an important breakthrough. So talk about it. I want you to tell the story yourself. That is why I'm not mentioning the details.
Well, it's a long story. So at any point you think that I'm rambling too much, you need to pull the reins and get me back
No,
where
well,
you want me to be.
you know what they say in university. You pick out the very salient and potent points. You don't have to say everything.
I'll try my best. So
Right.
I graduated from UWI in 2005 with my PhD in inorganic chemistry. And since then, I always had that fascination with the applications of coordination complexes to biological systems, and more so their applications to certain non communicable diseases. When I got my position at UTT, I was given the opportunity under Professor Julian to develop my own area of research. And at that point, I wasn't too sure because the thing about our education system is that, and not just ours, but throughout the world, many grad students, when you go to work under supervisor, you work under their vision, their idea, their research. So while I was trained in a lot of practices, principles, and techniques, the concept of the applications of these complexes for diseases never occurred to me or never dawned on me until I actually did my postdoc. And I have to thank UTT for that, because when I started working in 2007, UTT was growing very quickly and programs were quickly being entertained for development. Unfortunately, right after that, we were encountering our third term, and it was obviously a non-teaching term, and I thought it was a bit unethical, and I needed to do something to keep myself busy. So I approached Professor Julian and asked him, is it possible? I've been in contact with this professor at the University of Southern Mississippi who is doing work. And it was my intention. As a matter of fact, I remember in 2006, the year after I graduated, I came to you. You were principal at that time. And I asked you if you could have assisted me to secure a postdoc. And you did try. You had a meeting with me and you did your best. And one of the professors I kept in contact with was Dr. Alvin Holder, and he had just started his work at University of Southern Mississippi. And he said that if UTT is willing to fund you to come across to his lab, he would be able to train me and expose me to new areas. And Alvin there was looking at the applications of certain inorganic complexes to diabetes. And specifically, he was looking at two specific metals that I was not familiar with, vanadium and cobalt. And one of my tasks when I got there, so Professor Julian did approve it. He was actually very pleased that I wanted to do something for the improvement and for the growth of the university, because UTT wanted not just to be a teaching university, but also be pro-research. So he agreed. All I asked was that my salary be continued while I'm over there, so I had something to sustain me, and everything else was covered. So when I got to Alvin, one of my tasks there was to create this new ligand. So the whole idea of coordination complexes, this is a special type of compound or family of compounds that has two main components. There is a metal center, and clustering or surrounding that metal center is an organic or a carbon framed molecule called a ligand. So the first task, because it was something new in his, he asked me if I asked him to develop this ligand. And we did our very best. We tried. We came. It is practically a story where we actually reached the beach and we couldn't bathe because I finally was able to get to the final point, but the problem of purification was very, very difficult. And Alvin said, "Well, look, you know what? It doesn't make sense. If let's look for something else." He will look for something else to do. At that time, my internship was over. But me being me, I took it upon myself that I wanted to figure out how to get this ligand pure and how best I can use this ligand because he had no intention of continuing with it. And I took a kind of a liking or a bond. I had this bond, strange enough, pun intended, a bond with this particular molecule. So when I returned to Trinidad, I approached again Professor Julian and Professor Mago if they would allow me to continue the work, and they were more than happy to support it. And from there, based on what I did from my PhD, as well as what I learned from Alvin, I came up with my own project. And the, the story behind it was that these vanadilyl complexes act as insulin mimetics. Now, as the name implies, insulin mimetic, it functions as insulin without the need of insulin.
Okay.
And it is very important
And
for
for and for
diabetics.
and for the person who is viewing and listening to you, insulin is a key element for control of diabetes when it gets to be pretty bad. And therefore, what he was doing was creating the equivalent of insulin with the effect of insulin without using insulin or an injection process. Is that correct?
Dead on point, Prof. Very, very good. As a matter
Okay.
of fact, would be of particular importance to people of diabetics who are insulin resistant. Now, and as you up there to bring up a very salient point, talking about insulin. Many people don't actually understand what insulin does or the function of insulin. They know that diabetes is insulin related, but they don't know. So many people, while they might hit the nail on the head and say, well, yes, insulin is a hormone, they are of the opinion that insulin will bind to glucose or blood sugar and break it down. And that's wrong. These are actual responses that I asked the average person out there who was diabetic, and they questioned me about my work. And that function that they described is actually more enzyme-like rather than hormone-like. And a hormone is actually a signaling molecule. Another misconception is that insulin will bind to glucose and transport it across the cell membrane. That is protein transporter function. Again, not signaling. So what insulin simply does, if you want to think about like a combustion engine, you want a tumbler engine. I always like using this analogy. Insulin is simply the key. You put the key in the slot, you turn the key, and then that triggers the starter. Well, I'm not a mechanic, but all of these other processes, it triggers a cascade of processes to occur that eventually causes the pistons to fire. And then you have the engine rolling or rumbling. So we have seen enough action movies to know that when the key is not there, the person could just pull some cord underneath and hotwire the system, and then the car will start. Basically, these are what insulin mimetics do. So in the case where insulin is released and it will bind to the insulin receptor on cells, and the insulin receptor, whether it sits there or not, the insulin receptor does not respond to it because it becomes desensitized. Or in the other case of type 2 diabetes, where there's not enough insulin, the situation of hypoglycemia or hyperglycemia, sorry, will tend to arise. So these molecules now can get into the cell and then hotwire the receptor itself without having the insulin docking on the receptor site and then trigger the insulin cascade on its own. So it is something very important. It was a relatively new area of research at that time. And again, I quoted the date. So this was in 2007, the work really started. But because it was a transition metal, it had gotten a lot of negative comments from biologists and people in the medical fraternity, because there was that fear that transition metals, and it is a justified fear. So I have to accept that these metals may become will not be properly excreted or removed from the body, and then it will build up some sort of toxic level, and that will lead to some sort of internal poisoning. What they did find, however, as research progressed, was that the ligand, that carbon-based framework that I described, actually influences the activity of the metal. So the metal is the actual, the key player in this game, right? Not necessarily the entire structure, but the metal. But the ligand influences the activity of the metal and also reduces the toxicity. So that triggered an international race amongst researchers to try to experiment with different types of ligands that will hopefully be able to temper the toxicity of the ligand, of the metal, sorry, and as well improve the efficacy or the activity of the metal in terms of triggering this insulin cascade. Now, the thing about it is that no one really knew. Thank God for me. Again, there was a lot of luck because these negativities started to spring about all over the world. Many people started scratching their heads and thinking, am I wasting my time? Should I be looking at something else? Should I be chasing another metal? And thankfully, for me, especially in a third world country, in a developing university, the competition started to drop tremendously. But again, me being me, and already at that point waist deep into the work, I said, I am going to go through with it. I had nothing to lose. At the end of it, if I could have confirmed that the results were negative, at least it would have been a contribution to science that I went down that path, and I could have said it did not work. So maybe my stubbornness, sorry, go ahead.
No, what you're saying, maybe your stubbornness.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, I thought you were about to ask. So maybe my stubbornness had a lot to do with a lot to do to influence my success in the end.
Listen, stubbornness could be a liability sometimes, but most times it is what leads to persistence and
Yes.
insistence on doing what you think is important and ultimately leads to success. But tell me, where have you reached now in this? Because you got a patent,
Yeah.
no?
So yes, I did. So
All right.
finally, after
What
sorry
are you going
again.
to talk about now?
Well, you brought up the patent. I was going to lead up to the patent, but if you brought it up, we
Right.
can discuss
Okay,
it
go
now.
ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So, well, then now finally, after all the negativities that I faced, the troubles, the issue now, well, we're talking about the patent, and this is where I was when I was getting to that. When I presented my idea at the Prime Minister's Awards competition in 2013, again, it was faced with a lot of of very unfortunate comments by the so-called experts in the area of diabetes. What Trinidadians revel, or who Trinidadians revel to be the
No, well,
experts.
let's focus on the positives
No,
then. Yeah,
I'm getting to
yeah,
it. Yeah,
right.
yeah. So the issue is that from that, I was encouraged to apply for a fellowship through the International Center for Genetic Engineering and Biotechnology. This is an organization based in Italy that would be able to fund my exploration of my idea, and then not only look at the drug itself, because again the whole idea of toxicity was there. I crossed paths with a very senior professor at the Jawaharlal Nehru Center for Advanced Scientific Research. He came to do a presentation and a symposium on nanotechnology. And we got to talking, and Ishwar said, Professor Ishwar Murthy, Ishwar said that if I could come to him, we can actually try loading my drug into some nanoparticles that his students were working on and see if we can get some sort of drug delivery or vehicle to transport the drug into cells. So with that proposal, I wrote to ICGEB and I managed to get the scholarship awarded. I went to GNC and we tested it. We were successful. I was successful experimenting. Not only did we confirm that the drug was working, but also that we developed a novel method of creating a smart nanoparticle. So this nanoparticle, we had it, and this all of this went towards the patent, that the drug could actually go in, or any guest can go into this particular host, and then there would be a seal or a coating that will shrink in response to changes in pH. Like we're looking at oral administration. You mentioned something about injections, but we want to avoid injections. No one likes injections. Perhaps I heard your story about the COVID-19. Many people probably just don't want the injection because they're afraid of it. So the whole idea is that we want to get an oral drug, and the first pH environment any drug will face when you take it orally is your stomach, which is acidic. And what we saw is that this hydrogel coating would shrink and seal the drug shut and would prevent its release in the stomach. But when it goes into your small intestine and there's now a neutralization or relative neutralization of pH, it would swell and then release the drug. And this is where maximum absorption tends to occur in the small intestines. So we were able to confirm that mechanism, and we were also able to confirm then, again, from the unfortunate negativities that I faced, people questioned, how am I so sure? I'm chasing this idea, and this is why I needed to bring this up. When you're chasing an idea for a drug, you still are not sure if the drug will work, right? The theory is there, but suppose I reach the end and then the efficacy was not good. So while at JNC, the good thing about it was that I went to Ishwar and I asked him, is it possible to get someone to test this drug and see if it had anti-diabetic properties? And we got a researcher in Bangalore University who was able, she had just finished some studies. This is Dr. Soumya Mani. She had just finished a study of her own and she had leftover mice. And before she sacrificed them, she said, well, send the drug and she will try it. And the good thing about it at that point was that both of us weren't too sure how we were going to test this drug. So we came up with an idea of how we're going to diabetize the rats using a drug called streptozotocin, and then how we will do a dose response study, increasing the amount of drug administered to the rat until we actually got some sort of glucose.
Okay, so so all right, you want to finish what you're saying?
Yeah. So as well, which also makes interesting, was that she asked, well, how often will we administer the drug? So I said, well, we will not, just as when you take any medicine, you will only re-administer if the symptoms start to reoccur. So we will keep monitoring the blood of the rat until we see the glucose rise, and then we will re-administer at that point.
Yeah.
Interesting, right? So this is a clip of how the drug has been administered via oral garbage. What we found was that we got a prolonged or sustained efficacy of the drug for 5 days. Now, this was never heard before with any of the Vanderbilt complexes that were ever produced by any other researcher in the world. Yeah. So we got really excited for this because now we have the option, and this is what we pushed to in the patent. We have the novelty administering a drug one in every 5 days rather than one every day or twice a day or whatever, how many times you take a dosage of metformin or diamicron or whatever.
Yeah, we have some other slides that we want to show so that people will understand. What you are talking about here involves international collaboration with institutions and people in India. It involved an initial collaboration with someone in an American university. And of course, collaboration here in Trinidad and Tobago at the University of Trinidad and Tobago. All right? And this international collaboration was critical for what you were able to do. The criticisms that you got helped you to think through your problem and to solve small problems as you needed to, and got you to the point where you are now experimenting with the drug on mice. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
And on that basis, you now have a patent. Can we put up the patent, please? No, all right, okay.
So,
that's part of your experience.
Yes. So
put up the patent there now. No, not that. All right, we will get to that, but I'll take a break now, and we'll get some commercials, and I'll come back, and we'll continue the discussion. But we want to focus now on where we are going with this and what we need to do to get this cure. Right.
Welcome to Lifetime Solutions, where you can trust your roof to us. Our services include custom fabrication, steel framing, roofing installation, on-site roll forming, roofing maintenance and services. Call 223-ROOF or 223-7663 for a quote today, or visit our website www.lifetimesolutionstt.com. Lifetime Solutions. You can trust your roof to us. Call 223-ROOF or 223-7663 for a quote today, or visit our website www.lifetimesolutionstt.com.
Your house is more than just a home. It's the new normal. It's your place of work, your kids' school, and even your gym. It's where you and your family spend most of your time. With over 43 years in the building service industry, let Magic Mist Services Limited take care of your home cleaning and maintenance needs. From ceiling to floor, interior and exterior, allowing you to focus on what matters most to you. Give us a call. Magic Mist Services Limited, your total facilities management solutions provider.
Mangalese Trading Company Limited, specialist in PVC ceiling, gypsum ceiling, suspended ceilings, medallions, lights, metal framings, and SPCS flooring, known as vinyl plank. Now introducing Mangalese Foods, wholesale and retail, distributor of the family brand food items. Our range of products include rice, sugar, chickpeas, split peas, and soybean oil. Mangalese Foods deliver exceptional products. We offer timely and efficient service. We are located at 9 Francis Lala Road, Charlieville, Chaguanas. Contact us at 672-9889, 740-5569, or 336-4373. Mangalese Trading Company Limited.
You, what are you doing on Tuesday at 7:30? I'm going to our service. Join me on Tuesdays on MCTV. Don't make joke. Every week, new episode. What are you waiting on? Make sure to schedule me in. Don't make joke. MCTV original series. Make sure I watch.
No!
Yes?
They can't do the show!
Thank God, they won't be here anyway. Don't make joke, eh?
No, they're just joking, Jules.
Learn all about agriculture. Green Corner with Akanath Singh. Tuesdays and Thursdays at 1:30 p.m. Green Corner with Akanath Singh.
Hi, I'm Candice Barrett-Nahus, and I am your host of Everything Woman, coming to you live every Wednesday right here on MCTV. Join us every week while we have discussions regarding any and everything affecting us as women, from topics such as fashion, entertainment, to the heavier stuff that no one wants to talk about, such as domestic violence and sexual assault. Join us right here on MCTV.
Thank you very much. This is Brighter Morning with Bo. I'm Bo Tiwari, and we are talking to Dr. Varma Rambaran, Associate Professor at the University of Trinidad and Tobago. I want to just show Dr. Rambaran the patent that you got for what you are creating. And I wanted to show the book that you have written on what you have done, which is soon to be published. No More Needles, a review of oral therapeutic medicines for type 2 diabetes mellitus. So, okay. So here we are now. You have done the experimentation with rats on the basis of international collaboration and shared knowledge. And you are now at a point where you have a patent, and this is a working drug now. And what happens now? You have to go on to human trials?
Right. So it is our intention to pursue clinical studies. However, this will be actually the third time that I'm redoing these rodent studies. The second time when we did it, it was for the purpose of the filing of for the patent. However, we thought we were out of, we were in the clear at that point. However, at that point, we approached a CRO, a clinical research organization, which is the recommended way to go if you want to start human trials. What we found was that the CRO did not want to start human trials because certain protocol studies were not performed that needed to be presented if we go to FDA. So the FDA needs to see the results of these protocol studies and then the human studies, and then they will evaluate. At that point, they will deliberate if the drug is worth their stamp of approval. So at this point here, this is why I am now working with the Rajiv Gandhi Center for Biotechnology, and they are re-evaluating now, especially the toxicities of the drug. Because again, I keep harping on this. I want to ensure that I address and I calm that anxiety amongst many people about using this, that the drug is safe within the therapeutic window, right? And once we can establish that and confirm again the dosages, then we can transfer that through the CRO. So the CRO, we need an experienced organization or a team that will be able to conduct these human trials for us. Now, that itself now is going to be an issue because I have already started. I was in contact with a professor from University of British Columbia, Professor Chris Orvig, and he created a drug similar to mine. They had a sustained release of 3 days rather than mine 5 days. So we still have one up on him. And he got his studies as far as phase 2 human trials. So he was a perfect person to advise me on what my next step should be. And the estimated cost to go into human trials, he told me to make sure I have in reserve $1 million US. So that money has to be raised within the next 3 years if we are to go into that. In the meantime, we are protected by the patent for 20 years. Every year we have to pay a renewal fee to ensure that the patent is protected. The fee usually goes up as well. But that is going to be our major hurdle, especially at an economic crisis like this through the pandemic. A lot of people now, the government is scrambling to make ends meet. I really don't know what is going to be the fate of this.
So you need about 8 million TT dollars to get to the point where this might end up being a drug that can be used worldwide. So if it works out, the people who invest can do very well. If it doesn't work out, well, it's a risk. It's a risk taken, and there's a loss. But that is how it is all the time when you are trying to move from research to applications to business. So I want to commend you on what you've been able to achieve. You've been bold and persistent, and more than that, stubborn. but it got you to this point. So you have to be stubborn again and look for the resources that are required in order to get this done. And I think you should tap local as well as regional and international resources and see what is possible. But tell me, the chemical elements of this drug that you are going to create, are they organic or are they what?
Right. So again, we go back to my description of it. Coordination complexes is a hybrid. It contains an organic structure, which is carbon-based, and it is blended with an inorganic compound, in this case, a metal ion, which is vanadium. So it is a synergistic relationship. Neither one of them independently can work without coming together, and that chemical handshake, or that bonded handshake that is created, that creates something unique. And the efficacy of that now is what is giving our observed responses.
Okay, so it is a chemically based drug.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All drugs that have chemicals.
Based on compounds. Okay. Very, very well. I want to thank you for this conversation. It's very, very important. How you intend to get this $8 or $9 million that you need to do this work? And what will happen if you can't get the money? I know that UTT is kind of strapped. I know that we have problems with the state and revenues, etc. But there may be private entities and international organizations that may be willing to support this. How do you intend to proceed?
Well, the patent is one thing.
I want to say to the audience, especially those who are listening and watching and are thrilled by the fact that you got an international patent, that the patent is one thing, but getting the beyond the patent to actually creating something in the market is a costly process. Okay? And that is why you have significant development in the industrialized countries where they have structures and systems to support this kind of thing. And that is why countries like us remain relatively backward in these areas, because we don't have systems to support these things. Go ahead.
And I could not have said it better than that, Prof. We have the potential, we have the brain power to do these things, but we just don't have the backup to support it. To answer your question, the patent gives security to entrepreneurs or any company willing to support, sponsor, or more importantly, invest in the project. And more so, the third time around, once we confirm these preclinical studies with RGCD, it will give more confidence in the efficacy of the drug. Plus, of course, Professor Orvig, said that he is willing to give any support. He has already written, and Professor Gail Wilsky from the State University of New York, she as well was working on a similar drug. She sent a lot of letters of support to me, both of them. And they are very interested in seeing us get this as far or beyond where they had reached, because they are now emeritus, and they are excited to actually see this vanadil complex, which they themselves were struggling to convince others in their times of research that they should encourage. And now I came out of nowhere basically and got this far. So now I have their support, which is really comforting.
Well, it really is good for people to see how this thing works. You have to have a dedicated professional and someone who is very dedicated to his discipline. And then you have to have collaborators and supporters within your institution, as you did in UTT with Professor Julian, Professor McGoy, etc. And beyond that, you need to have international collaborators to make this thing work. I want to thank you for talking with me this morning. What will the drug do when it's made? If we got the drug right, what would it do? It'll keep diabetes down, right? Keep the sugar level
yes,
down.
Correct. Yes. So it will be like a typical Centrum. For the average diabetic, you pop one in the morning, and
And that's it.
it's yep.
Keep
That's
your
it.
sugar level good. Okay, fine. Thank you for talking with me, Dr. Rambaran.
Thank you.
And we go now to the 8 o'clock news. Thank you for watching. This is MCTV, Multicultural TV. This is Brighter Morning with Bo. And I am Bo Tiwari signing off.